Hi everyone, welcome to week 7 of our Comp 1 course. This video is going to be an overview of what we are going to do in week 7. So our overview here on Blackboard, this week you're going to learn about acknowledging source material, which is going to help you out in writing Project 2. Then you're going to write a complete draft and post it to the discussion board, which will then be for our peer review activity next week. Remember that you already have all that good pre-writing and planning from last week, and you can return to that material as a starting point. In fact, it would be a very good idea for you to go back and look at some of those pre-writing things and planning that you did last week to help give you a good foundation for drafting writing Project 2. Your first task this week is some readings from the textbook. You have a chapter on quoting, paraphrasing, and summarizing. You'll be doing likely all 3 of those things in writing Project 2. You should also read the chapter on acknowledging sources and avoiding plagiarism, as well as a chapter on documentation. In task 7.2, you are going to learn how to acknowledge sources in your draft. In English, specifically in a lot of composition classes or literature classes, we use MLA, which is a formatting style, and it's short for the Modern Language Association. So it's the format that they came up with, that association came up with. The Modern Language Association style calls for you to cite your sources in 2 places. First is within your sentence. This is called an in-text citation. It can also be called a parenthetical citation. And then also in a list of works cited at the end of your text. This is called a works cited page. Hopefully this isn't super new information for you. I'm hoping that a lot of you are coming into this class with a little bit of experience with MLA. But if you aren't, it's not a big deal. Reading these chapters and the activities that we have in class should be plenty to help you get a handle on the expectations of MLA. For in-text citations, when you refer to a lens text idea within your paper, you'll usually need to use a signal phrase, which is a phrase based on the name. A signal phrase is a phrase that signals where the information is coming from. It tells the reader who is saying what. For instance, if you paraphrase Kilborn, you might use a sentence like this in your paper. Jean Kilborn, a media critic, says in her video, Killing Us Softly 4, that women are often objectified in advertisements. So our signal phrase there is all of this right here. So this signal phrase is especially thorough. It tells us the author's name, Jean Kilborn. It tells us who she is. She's a media critic. And it also tells us where the information is coming from. Specifically, it's coming from her documentary, Killing Us Softly 4. Notice that the source's full name, Jean Kilborn, is used here, but the full name should be used only the first time you mention a source. Each other time that you mention the source, it's fine to just use the author's last name. This is kind of just an expectation of academic writing, or really most writing. You'll see a lot of writing you refer to people by their last name, and that largely just kind of comes from a place of respect. Usually we don't know these people personally, so it's not quite appropriate to refer to them by their first names. Also notice here, and I pointed this out a second ago, that when you mention a source, you should give a little bit of context about the source. So in this case, Jean Kilborn is a media critic, but you might mention where the person currently works or what they're famous for, what kind of scholarship that they write, anything that you think might be relevant to help your reader get a better idea of who the person is and why they are a reliable source. Now, you don't need to say a lot about the person. I mean, right here, only 3 words were used. So you don't, it doesn't need to be full sentences necessarily, but you want to give your reader a little bit of an idea of who you're talking about. Let's see here. Notice also that the sentence uses present tense. And this can be a little bit confusing, because obviously the source was created in the past. But in MLA, we usually refer to sources or to texts in the present tense. And the reason for that is, those texts all currently exist. They exist in the present. And so anytime that you go back and watch Kilborn's documentary, she's always saying the same things in that documentary, which is why we use present tense as opposed to past tense. Notice also that there's no parenthetical information. There's no in-text citation at the end of this sentence here that we just looked at. And that's because the student has already mentioned the relevant source information in the sentence itself. So if you mention the author's name within your sentence, you don't need to include it in the parenthetical citation at the end of the sentence. If you ever are directly quoting someone, or in other words, you are using something that they said word for word, you need to put that in quotation marks. And so here's an example of that as well. Kilborn says in her video that ads have, quote, long promised us a better relationship via a product, end quote. And so here we have a signal phrase as well. Kilborn says, that's a signal phrase telling us who is saying this information. The words that this student took directly from Kilborn have been placed within quotation marks. And then we have a parenthetical citation here. Notice in this first sentence that the video title is included in the sentence, but in this sentence, the video title is not, so it has been included here in the in-text citation. Now, oftentimes, the in-text citation will just be a person's last name and then the page number if there is one. But in this case, because we are looking at videos as opposed to like something that you would read, it's a little bit different. Notice that in this second example, parenthetical information is included. That's because the name of the video wasn't mentioned in the sentence. The formal works cited entry begins with the title of the video. Therefore, you should use a shortened form of the title of the video in parentheses. Note that you don't need any page numbers here because you're citing a video. However, if you want to use timestamps in parentheses, you may. So, if you think it's important that your reader know exactly when the person said something, you can provide the time that they said that thing. And then number 2 here, when you refer to your images within the text, you can just refer to the images by name. For example, the ad for Extra Gum portrays a stick of gum wearing a bikini. Be sure to refer to the assigned readings for the week for more information about in-text citation. So this isn't necessarily everything you need to know about in-text citation. This is a lot of it, but these readings will go into a lot more detail and provide more examples. For your Works Cited page, the last page of your paper should be labeled Works Cited, and it should contain full citations for your lens text or lens texts and your images. The citation should be arranged alphabetically, and that's alphabetically based on whatever the first letter is. To cite the videos, you're going to follow this formula here: title of film, role by first and last names, and the production studio followed by the date. Make sure that you pay attention to what is being italicized, what isn't, and where the commas and periods go. So our example here of a film being cited, Casablanca, directed by Michael Curtiz, is the Warner Studios, and published in 1942. To cite your images, you can also take a look at these. We have how to cite a print ad, and then how to cite an ad on the web. And I'm guessing that most of you will be using this second method right here, so you can follow this example. And then if you need to cite any other sorts of images, you can take a look at your textbook, which will show you how to do that. And if you feel like you need more help, so if this kind of walkthrough right here and the readings that you did earlier, if those still don't like fully answer your questions about MLA, there are also some MLA guides that the library has created. You can access them through this link here. For task 7.3, you are going to draft your paper. I recommend using any and all resources that are available to you. So you should go back to the pre-writing. You should reread the assignment description to remind yourself of what the requirements are. You should also take a look at the papers in the Student Success Gallery, which will show you examples of pretty solid papers and different ways that people have approached this assignment. Let's see here. I don't think there's anything else that I really need to say about this. So in task 7.3, you're just writing your rough draft. In task 7.4, you're going to be thinking about how you are designing your document. So at some point during your drafting process, spend some time thinking about the design. And there's a couple of things for you to consider here. The assignment asks you to use MLA format, which has certain rules for spacing and for font and for other things like that. So you have a description here of what those requirements are. Paper should be double spaced, using 12-point font Times New Roman. Notice that your name, my name, and the date, as well as the class, should appear in the top left-hand corner of the first page. The image attached above, so this right here, is the first page of a document that has been correctly formatted in MLA. You can see an entire sample paper, including the works cited page, at the end of the Norton Field Guide chapter on MLA. And then number 2, you should include the actual images that you are analyzing. So it'll be helpful to your reader if you copy your images directly into your paper. And you can just copy and paste those right into the document. That shouldn't be too hard. But remember, we have a little note here. Even with the images included in your document, you should still describe those images fully in your writing. Show your readers that you've thoroughly studied the images. Describe what's going on, how the people look, what they're doing, how they're posed, what their expressions are like, what's in the background, and so on. Point out all of the little things that readers or viewers might not notice when first looking at the image. We have a video here also about MLA formatting if you would find that helpful. In task 7.5, you are going to be posting to the discussion board. This week you only have one post. By Sunday at 11:59, you need to post your draft of Writing Project 2 to this discussion board. You can copy and paste your draft into the text box or attach it as a separate file. If you do attach it as a separate file, please make sure that it is a Microsoft Word doc. That will make it easier for me and for most of your peers to access that document. At the top of your post on the discussion board, make a few notes about what you're struggling with in your draft, things that you would like some feedback on. And that'll help guide your peers a little bit when it comes time to do the peer review. There are no other replies or anything that you have to do this week. Next week, you'll be reading a couple of your peers' drafts and responding to them. And that's pretty much it for this week. Because you are going to be drafting your paper this week, there's maybe a little bit less going on than there normally is in our class. By Sunday at 11:59, you should produce all the writing that you completed for task 7.3, which is just your draft. So you are not only submitting your draft to the discussion board, but you will also be submitting it here as well. And I think that just about covers it. If you have any questions or concerns, feel free to email me and I will help you out.